Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 6 of the Authenticity Hour. I'm your host, James Gale, founder of Shogun Digital and just overall content nut. Today, we have a very special guest who I met a little while ago while at Solent Uni, who is onto much bigger and badder things. He joins us all the way from London, and he is a master of Canary Wharf. Jake Tansley, thank you for joining us, man. It's very much appreciated. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, when we started talking on Instagram and just kind of catching up in general, really, because I loved what you were doing on your YouTube channel, because the kind of theme of the show overall, it in some sense is how power of personal brand can fuel you both for entrepreneurial reasons but also in career senses, and you shouldn't undervalue yourself in any way, shape or form. So let's start there. Let's start with your journey, first of all, Jake, from when we met to now, because we met at Solent, although you were already working in marketing then, and now you're on to completely different stuff. So walk us through the journey, introduce yourself, my man.
Well, I think really it all comes down to, I have a sort of fundamental philosophy that there's definitely a need for a balance of work and education. There tends to be quite a conflict in that. So as soon as I was at university, like trying to get into marketing and stuff, you've got to sort of get the work experience at the same time. I was working for an experiential marketing company while I was studying marketing at Solent. And yeah, I think that's why we met, because we were at that networking event for Solent. And it was, as I was saying a second ago, it was quite weird that they got me to meet the professionals, and I was sort of at university and doing this at the same time. Yeah,
just walking a double life. I'll tell you what, let's talk about how you got that, because I'm guaranteed there's plenty of grads screaming at the screen going, how on earth did you manage to get a job in marketing while studying marketing? How did that work?
Well, I think one of the benefits of Solent University is that it was quite hands-on.
Very practical.
We had a university assignment that said, look, this is a company, live brief, go and chat to them. And again, it comes down to networking, really, doesn't it? When you get face-to-face time with people in the industry, you've got to, although you don't want to, no one wants to have ulterior motives, you've got to sort of recognise that this is how you sort of build your career. Did an interview for my university assignment, and went on to sort of talk further about roles that they had in the company. And
excellent.
I think I was there during half my second year and then end of uni as well.
Nice. Yeah, because that's I think a lot of students undervalue the power of really knuckling down when it comes to networking. And a lot of people don't understand how networking really should be, to be honest, because it's always a how can I help you kind of scenario. A lot of people, like you said, go in with an ulterior motive, and people sniff it straight away. They're like, yeah, okay, you're gunning for something. But actually just being kind of earnest, like trying to learn as much as humanly possible. And I think passion counts for a lot. People underestimate how many decisions, even at the highest level, are made by just gut decisions, and I like that person. It's a very like what kind of thing, like you can't do that, but genuinely it is at every level of business, as long as like there's some basic due diligence and needs are met. So it was the uni that gave you the in of that work experience, and then basically the hustle took it the rest of the way there.
Yeah, I mean, working hard is obviously a big part of it. It's not easy to do a full-time university course and work part-time at a marketing agency or other places I've worked during university. And I think sometimes university students can get a bad reputation, like where they sort of think that they're sort of going out every night and not really doing a lot of work. And I think while I don't necessarily agree with that, there is definitely space to sort of build on top of it and maybe put that extra little bit of work in. It does go a long way. It's sort of a meme these days, isn't it, where you sort of apply for a job and they say you've got to be fresh out of university with like 10 years experience in the industry. It's like, how do you get that? I mean, you've just got to start early, just building up bit by bit, and it does look good on your CV at the end of the day, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's always a tricky tightrope to walk, because now in the position of an employer, I'm like, oh yeah, it would be nice to have someone that I could pay entry level and then have the experience. But I'm like, that's not how it works. And actually, one of our amazing full timers here, she started as an intern, and then that trust built up and her skills developed, and then we were like, well, it just makes 100% sense for you to join the team. So like that is just something that works as a natural progression. I mean, remember I got my work experience with a company called Virtual Umbrella. They were experiential marketing, but specifically for VR, and they were a super cool company. And I got it by applying for a job there, going for an interview. Only job I've never gotten in my life because I just didn't have any experience. And then after I emailed, I go, can I work for free though? And they were like, yeah, sure. And I was like, okay, cool. And then that's on the CV.
As an employer now, then, where do you sort of strike the balance between sort of academic qualifications and that work experience? What do you?
A lot of it comes down to, because we're in the creative space, is raw talent cultivation. So it's like when I see someone has like the eye for it, because you need someone with a different creative brain to you, because there's no way you'll be able to like solve some of the creative issues that clients have or think of things in the same way without having someone else's perspective. And there's just other things like learning how offices work and like client etiquette and things like that comes with time, regardless of even if you studied like account management traditionally in an advertising sense. So it's a case of that stuff comes with time anyway. So having someone there who's got the creative eye, who's got the creative raw skill, cultivating it and helping them learn the ins and outs, the basics, especially when it comes to graphic design, framing and all that kind of stuff, that is quite easy to execute, if I'm honest with you. And that's kind of the route we've gone to develop talent, and then kind of making sure everyone's evenly priced. I mean, coming very soon, what we're going to do is all full-timers will be on 4-day work weeks, because I think it's a trend that isn't going away anytime soon. And quite frankly, I always told myself that if I ever got a chance to be an employer, I'd create the kind of place I'd want to work at. And I know that's kind of said a lot in different places, but I'm like, I keep forgetting that, oh yeah, I can make all the decisions, can't I? Oh, I guess I will then. Because sometimes you forget.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to have. Obviously, like coming out of university and trying to get a job like you did, you kind of have these sort of feelings towards different employers, and you sort of go, I might not be able to do this as well as you can, but there are definitely some things that you can do better. And it's great having the opportunity to sort of allow other people to develop in the way that you weren't able to in other situations.
Yeah,
I think you hit the nail on the head as well. It kind of goes into my sort of next stages from Solent, where I did a master's in management of international business. And one of the big things you see with management is that they hire people that are very similar to themselves.
Yeah.
But as you said, you can't sort of cater for all the client needs. You need other people that bring other things to the team. And yeah, it sounds like that's something you've done quite well.
Yeah, it's worked so far. Try not to jinx it, touch wood, although this is a metal table, try something. Yeah, it's just a case of, I think, going down the route that we have done in terms of being an agency that's completely forthcoming and authentic. I think it's a nice change of pace, because I think a lot of the agency world has gotten stuck into this realm of being completely pitch perfect, because obviously everyone's pitching for bigger business, and it's a case of we must look completely infallible, like we're the silver bullet to all marketing needs. And it's like, yeah, well, that's not real, is it? No, like, even if you are the highest of the high in terms of how big of an agency you are, there's a level of especially at the account management level, that's when you have to bring in the authenticity and just being a person that person can work with. And I'm trying to spread that out through all factors of the business, so it just makes a bit more sense and gives a better vibe, if you know what I mean. Because you can always jump on a company website or socials and feel the vibe, as fluffy as that sounds. And it's a case of trying to extend that into as many places as possible, really lean into it. And especially because we're a niche agency that focuses on organic social and influencer marketing and the content creation. It's like that's now our wheelhouse, and that's why the podcast is our main driver. But tell us a little bit about how your YouTube channel fueled where you are now, because obviously that was something. Did you start that while you were doing your masters?
Yeah, so during my masters, I was working part-time as well. One of my friends had a family company and sort of did the day-to-day stuff and helped them with business as well. But I don't know, there's just something about content creation where if you are into thinking and drawing different things from different areas,
So
like, you
fun.
can't help yourself but to like put this out or put it into a physical form, right? So yeah, it got to the point at university where I like, was having all these ideas, and what else do you do but put them somewhere and get other people's opinions on them as well.
Yeah.
So that's how the culture business started. Fundamentally, I think there's sort of a lot wrong with businesses these days. So it was sort of an outlet for me to like vent and like talk about different perspectives on that. So
Yeah.
that was another side of it. But I mean, that's how it really got off the ground.
Yeah, and I like challenging those business norms is something we really have to do to force positive change. And obviously, if there's anything the lockdown taught us, is that a lot has to change, especially in regards to job flexibility and our approach to work and work-life balance, because life's too short. At the end of the day, it really is. And I like the fact that you've dedicated a whole channel to it, and it's actually helped fuel where you are. Did they mention anything in your interviews to the role you're at now about the culture business?
So the head of corporate where I work, he's an interesting guy, and he's in the final stage interview with him. He will literally just like challenge you, and obviously that's something that happens in the day-to-day role here. So if you can't deal with it in a nice way, then it's like you can't do this job. And that was one of the things he challenged me on, was that you don't have as much experience as these companies that you're using as examples on this YouTube channel. Like how do you say that you know what to do compared to these people when you don't? And my answer really was that it's not all about saying that this is right, but it's definitely about opinions. And again, content creation is about opinions mainly, isn't it? So having this sort of online portfolio of content where you can really sort of put your personality into it, it definitely helps with job interviews, because otherwise they're going off like a piece of paper in a 30-minute conversation with you. And I think it's become one of those things, like you kind of have to have LinkedIn these days to sort of progress in the corporate world. I think it's going that way, where you have to have, whether you're a creative or someone who works in finance, you have to have this portfolio of what really sort of drives your enthusiasm about whatever discipline you're in.
Yeah, without a doubt. And the power of personal brand is something that we talk about a lot internally and externally, because people get wrapped up in view count and like count and everything like that when it comes to content creation and brand development. And you have to think of your content as like for specific purposes. So growing a YouTube channel is extremely hard, right? Because it's organic discovery, and there's much more of an SEO element that comes into it in terms of discoverability, because it's the world's second largest search platform than anything else. So having your content there as a library for potential clients or employers to binge and see you and trust you and build that parasocial connection before you get there is what it's for at first. And then people go, but my stuff isn't getting views or likes, and it's just like, who cares? It's about that content library being there for when the right prospect or employee comes along, they can just consume everything that's you. And that's a massive part of it, and that must have worked in your favour in quite a big way.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that it's one of the major things that businesses who are quite small and try and do everything to the best standard possible really, really quickly, they ultimately end up doing like an average job at a lot of different things. And when you have someone in your industry who does a good job at that specific thing, you can't compete against them. It's like that with the content that you're saying, that not everyone's going to like it necessarily, but the people who do like it, they'll really like it, and that's where it's important to focus. And yeah, I think you mentioned sort of not being perfect on this content, and businesses trying to like be very perfect, and it's sort of you'll be able to talk to this a bit more, but in content and social media marketing these days, it's all about like the personal point of view. No one likes to be sold to by businesses anymore. And if it's personal, it's not going to be perfect, is it? That's part of it. And businesses going on social media these days trying to be this all pristine brand image, it comes across as a corporate entity trying to make you buy their product. And people don't buy into that the way that they should in social media.
Yeah, and the bigger the business, the more difficult it is to navigate through these waters in terms of being able to say to a marketing department, hey, you don't have to produce the highest quality at all times. Sometimes stuff that actually has a lower production cost connects with an audience more because it feels like something they could do. It feels like something that is on their wavelength, and it's completely dependent on what it is that they sell. It's completely dependent on the type of business it is, and some businesses do like to stay in that very high production premium realm, but there are things you can still do to make a further connection that I think people massively miss out on. And it's since COVID, that trend of I need some kind of connection because I'm locked at home, that effect is still here, and that's obviously come through from the rise of TikTok, and that just being a completely like balls to the wall authentic, we don't want your Instagram perfectness, here, get out, I'm going to do this TikTok in my dressing gown, like that's everyone, regardless of whether they were like IG models beforehand or like serial entrepreneurs. They were still doing Zoom calls. Everyone's been sat here. So when you say, oh, I can't do a podcast, I don't have a studio, bloody hell do you mean you ain't? Like, it doesn't matter, just do it through here. Like, if anything, how we started the podcast is extremely overproduced compared to like how it needs to be, but the fact is that Barclays Eagle Labs provide a lot of amazing equipment, so we're like, well, we're taking use of that, but that's basically the only reason. Otherwise it would always be in this setup. It would always be just me, you, and some good quality conversation. That's all it is. And there's plenty of businesses that need to break down those barriers and think in a much more serving way instead of selfish. And then I always give the example of any time I chat to a business, I ask whoever it is, no matter how senior, so how many businesses do you follow at home when your business hat is off? Any? No? Might have one or two. And if you do, it's because they're special and they stand out for a reason. And that is the mental switch that needs to change. Think content creator first on these platforms, business second, because you will not get anywhere with the ulterior motive of I want something out of you. That's why we're doing this. Yes, I want to help you just because we can, because we're a business of that size.
I mean, feel free to disagree with me on this, but I always look to Red Bull as a very good digital
amazing example
company. And it goes back to what you're saying, like you can make these amazing high production videos, put them on social media and they're great. But Red Bull connect with people because they go, you know what, we're going to take a bike to the top of the mountain, stick a camera on it and fly down. Yeah. And then someone goes, that looks fun, I'm going to grab a Red Bull, stick a camera on my bike and fly down the side of this hill. And it's so simple, but it's because it like directly connects with the person who's watching it. It's not about like how good it looks at the time.
Yeah.
And I definitely get carried away with like buying gadgets and stuff like that just because I love that. But there's no need to have a drone or have all these different gimbals and whatever.
Tech is life.
Yeah.
And a lot of businesses do get trapped if they're in their own niche and they feel that they can't escape from that. They feel like if they move off the beaten path, it's going to disrupt their whole business. But I'd say there's a very, very big proportion of businesses that are not utilising their organic channels in the way that over time could actually bring them real revenue back. So it's normally the case of if you're building, let's say if you're a startup from scratch especially, you turn over to a senior VP or stakeholder and go, yeah, you're going to have to put in graft for the next 6 months to a year to see genuine engagement and probably return on investment. And they go, huh? We can't do that. What do you mean? And I'm like, so are you going to ditch all social channels and do a Wetherspoons and just not do it? They go, no. And then why not do it right then? Because otherwise you're still flushing money down the toilet by investing your marketing agency's time in producing stuff that isn't going to do anything. It isn't going to cultivate your community. People aren't going to care. You're just going to be another business being spammy on LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever it is. Make the change. And it doesn't have to be us. It can just be anything. But just don't be a business. I think one of the massive things we do is when we do market research, we look at 80% of the creators in that space and then 20% of businesses, because otherwise you get into the subconscious copying realm of, oh my god, this our competitors are doing this, we should probably do something similar. And then you all just go in this massive tail sniffing circle of like, oh, okay, we're going to produce things in this niche, and then everyone produces the same stuff, and it's the ones that are bold enough to step out are the ones that succeed on organic social and realise this does not happen overnight. This isn't something that has to generate us tens of thousands of pounds in the first 2 months. Not happening, because every single creator before they started making money was just trial and error in their bedroom until they got it right, until people started supporting them, and until they got to that stage. And that same effect can happen for a business if they are open, honest, and authentic. It's almost like a new trust. It's almost like a new funnel of authenticity, like authority, and then trust. Especially if you're an educational brand. So this could be anything from like high-level business. You could completely break down the barriers of that by just being honest and teaching people everything. And then that in itself would attract so many more people to the cause. So that's the place to go to learn about this.
Yeah, I think there's also a lot of people or a lot of businesses that try and stay away from telling people how to do things, or like giving instructional videos, because they sort of say, oh, look, if we tell them how to do it, they won't come to us to do it. But it's completely the opposite. It's exactly what you said. There's like authenticity that feeds into that trust, and then they kind of go, oh well, they've given us this and we enjoyed it, so we're going to go with them and just stick with their brand.
Listen, unless you're Colonel Sanders and you're trying to protect those 11 herbs and spices recipe, unless you're bloody Mr. Krabs and you're trying to protect the Krabby Patty secret formula, there's no such thing as a trade secret anymore. Everyone needs to just drop this notion of, oh, if they find out how we do things, we're done for. There's one thing teaching, like I give everything away for free, every single thing, because I want people to make this change. It's part of our overall mission to actually change how businesses are viewed on social media. So you take this advice and you run with it. But actually taking our advice and then executing it is completely different. There's so many steps involved, there's so many nuances, and you might need some guidance along the way. And you can come to us if you need to, but I'm not forcing anything, because quite frankly, it's been working the way it's been going, and it's just a much more laid back model. I mean, even the way we do sales generation, I switched our KPIs from being numbers driven and looking at lead quality scores to kind of have 5 good quality conversations a week. And this doesn't necessarily can be prospects or new connections, and that's revolutionised the way we've been operating, because people really gravitate to it more. Because it can be a lot of pressure in sales meetings, and you can accidentally turn someone into a number just from the conversation you have with them, and they can tell you're trying to force it, trying to get you onto the spreadsheet, move you up in the funnel that you're in, and it's like, ugh, I never want to see another funnel in my life. I just want something real, you know.
Yeah, especially as a small business, turning clients or customers into numbers is just a complete wrong way to think about things. I mean, there are like a lot of laws to describe this, but I like the 80-20 principle of, look, 80% of your income is going to come from 20% of your customers, and those are the ones that you want to focus on. So the rest that are just numbers to you, like you don't have to get rid of them completely, but at least put a lot of your time and effort into focusing on and generating that more of that 20%, and that doesn't come from treating anyone as numbers.
Yeah.
There's also the it's like 1,000 true fans rule, where your business can survive if you've got 1,000 customers who not even survive, do really well. If you've got 1,000 customers that will literally live and breathe your brand, and it's so much easier to do that than get like 1 million customers who will buy one product. And it's just a no-brainer, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, you often hear the rhetoric of like brand loyalty being dead. I mean, it's very different from the usual, like, I'm always go to this butcher's down the road, because those separate stores no longer exist in terms of a traditional way of looking at things. But true brand advocacy and brand loyalty actually can come straight from social media. It's just a different playing field. And many businesses miss out on that because they're too busy promoting their own products on there, because they're too scared to step away from it. And it's true brand advocacy is built, I mean, just with the Red Bull example, like, this may or may not actually make you purchase Red Bull more, but it most certainly puts them in a much more positive light. Like, it's it's an amazing dynamic to see, actually, when it's almost like the answer's been staring us all in the face with everyone we watch as soon as we actually go home, like from the Instagram as we scroll through to watch it, whatever YouTube videos there are. Like, I get most of my news from an American guy from the States called Philip DeFranco. I've been watching him for like 10 years. Like, most of it's American news, but for some reason I still tune in every bloody day. Well, at least like 5 days a week. And it's a simple equation. It really is. And I think I have bought a couple of his bits of merch over time just because I actually wanted to support him. And there's actually a much larger case for bigger businesses to really make a much more of a push to support smaller creators in their realm. Now, I remember like 5-10 years ago, if you had a sponsor on YouTube, you're a sellout. You're a sellout to the man and no one liked you. But if you get one now, it's a sign of success and everyone's really happy for you in the comments of their audience, because with YouTube ads being the way they are and AdSense, sometimes it can be very unfairly spread out, and YouTube can suppress things just to make sure that, you know, everything's brand friendly, right? And that sentiment can be shit. But now you're sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends, you know, you're all right, or NordVPN, or just any of the continuous names we see. People that have absolutely killed it: Squarespace, NordVPN, Wix, Tunnel Bear, like Honey as well. Like, you hear these recurring names over and over again, and they'll be synonymous with your space. I mean, we have a concept in Shogun called true sponsorship synergy. It's very hard to say, where you have to pair up properly with the creator that you're pairing up with, because you want this to be a long-term relationship. You want to support their growth because you want to be attached to their success also, because you can almost bet on them like horses. If you support them over a long period of time, they could blow up. All it takes is one, especially if they're in the TikTok realm. It could be absolutely massive, and all it takes is one. If you're there for the ride, then it changes the game.
And I'm quite a fan of taking it that one step further, and even actually, I don't think I can think of a business that shouldn't have this in place, where one of their staff members is that person for the company on social media or branded advertising, and taking that sort of sponsoring and getting that synergy right with the creator, and sort of flipping it and saying, look, we can turn you into the creator, and therefore the synergy is already there. I mean, that's what I ultimately would like to be at the place that I work at, is be that sort of face of the brand, be that person that if you're like going on social media, you pop up and you're right next to the business.
Yeah.
I think that's such a powerful tool. I can't remember, someone wrote a book about it as well. I can't remember who it was, but it's one of those books where it had a really catchy title, like Branding is Dead or something like that.
It might be a Seth Godin book, I think.
End of Marketing by Carlos Gill. It was actually gifted to me. But yeah, I feel like it's one of those books where maybe it stretches out this one idea for a bit longer than it should have. But that one idea is definitely a very good tool, a very, very important thing to think about as a business going into social media in the modern day. Like, no one wants to be sold to by a company, as you said earlier.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm trying to think of a business that does it really well. I think Carlos Gill uses the example of a sponsorship with I think it was Starbucks actually, that one of their just a barista was making coffees and videoed it. They went viral, and then they launched a new type of coffee, and they said to all of their staff, for every 1,000 people that like this, we'll pay you, because I mean, people buy from people, and if they see someone on their social media saying, look, this is how we make it, this is fun, they're going to go, oh, that's interesting, I might try that next time, rather than if Starbucks was like, buy this coffee, the whole one's going to go, yes, Starbucks will come in tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think meme culture can power a lot of things, and just cool stuff in general coming from real people. One of the best examples, I think, for a company that puts a face in front of the name, which doesn't even run it, is Oberlo. So they're Shopify partners to help you with drop shipping. They're like the main partnership when you set up a Shopify store, and their TikTok is outstanding because the guy who runs it, essentially his name's Neil. He'll just go, "Hi, Neil from Obolo here. We've got some tips on how to help you with X, Y, and Z, or how to help you set up your first store." And it's all completely educational, inspirational content with him literally just with his phone going, we found this really good blog article that teaches you X, Y, and Z. It's so simple to make. And you can even obviously promote your own articles through there as well. But I think it's been an amazing rise for them, and their content is so valuable that it's cultivated an audience in itself. And obviously sound and kind of trending effects have a part to play in TikTok. But the educational space on there is far, far underestimated. And I think it's one of the things that businesses like especially ones at the level that you're working at the moment, having that and having that rare opportunity to be the first on TikTok is something that you should absolutely be advocating for every single day, because I think every one of us has said it at one point, I wish I could go back 10 years ago and start YouTube videos then, because then I'd be in a completely different place now. And that is something that is available to businesses right now on TikTok, but they aren't taking it seriously enough just yet. But it's not going away anytime soon. It's been the most downloaded app for the last year and a half, mostly spurred on by COVID and everything like that. I think Zoom beat it a couple of times, but I think that was more out of necessity than want to download it. But yeah, that is something that if you can advocate that, no matter where you work, everyone should have a TikTok account. I don't care how irrelevant you think it is, get it, because it can completely change the trajectory of your business, and it's the only place on the internet at the moment that being and going viral is a complete possibility amongst your normal videos. So it's such an interesting platform. Do you play on it much?
I don't have TikTok. I hate to say it, but it's part of it. I don't want to avoid it, but it's not something that I think would be healthy for my working lifestyle.
Oh, well, that's for sure. That's for sure. It's not.
If I had TikTok, I would be just on it all the time and not get anything done. So it's not out of any hatred for the app, but it's more out of it's probably not the right thing for me to have right now.
It's so much deeper than people think it is. Honestly, I could rant on about it for ages. It works the same way the YouTube recommended section does, where your For You page essentially shows you what you like and what you love. And that is the phenomenon that's amazing, because you automatically fall into your tribe within the first few videos, and the algorithm works wonders, and it's the most addictive platform I've ever had a chance to use. So yeah, you're 100% right. If you need your time, no TikTok, don't do it. But if you want to make waves and actually get some really good organic reach, because I'm sick of having to pay to play for platforms like Facebook and Instagram, yeah, TikTok's the way. I mean, I brought this book in today to be like a table talk thing. It's Make Brilliant Work by Rod Judkins, which I haven't actually read fully yet, but I think it has some really nice creative principles in there that I'd love to dive into at some point. I think I'll be doing a kind of like an analysis on it in the channel I actually picked up when I went to the Tate not long ago, and I think Make Brilliant Work is something that happens over time. I think too many people try and execute it straight away. I mean, we touched on it earlier. How many paintings did Picasso go through until he actually nailed one? Although, he could have just got lucky first time. I'm not an art major, but that is a sentiment that brilliant work comes over time, in my opinion. This is before I've read the book, so I'm sure it touches on it. But that's just something I wanted to throw out there, that creative thinking is like a muscle. It takes time to really flex it, and different perspectives, like you mentioned earlier, no matter how early on they are in their career, different perspectives can completely change the game, because you could be looking at the answer dead in the face and not know it.
Yeah, I think I recall looking at a sort of scatter graph of the correlation between the amounts of work that a certain composer put out and the amount of just masterpieces I think they had. I don't know how they described it, but it was all correlating. The more work you'd put into it, the longer you work at it, the more masterpieces you create, except from like Bach was down in the corner somewhere just because he sort of like nailed it all the time. But yeah,
there's always one. There's always one.
Yeah, definitely the exception rather than the rule, though.
Yeah, cultural phenomenons do appear every once in a while, so they're always nice to see. But yeah, I think that's too many people try and get it so perfect the first time. And even for businesses, you just have to just chill out, man. It will come. Just keep making stuff and don't get discouraged. Like it can be a long road, but it's a road that's so worth it, and it's the only way to do it. It's like wanting to be a CEO right out of the gate after uni. Even if you manage to build a company and give yourself that title, all the skills that a CEO has to have, you don't get until you put the time in. You just kind of bumble through it until you're there, kind of. So even when you can skip steps, you've never really gotten there just yet. So time investment is still the biggest thing. I mean, do you have any techniques that you use to manage your time, actually? Because I always ask everyone this question, because I am terrible for it and giving myself a structure. Is there a particular methodology you prefer, or are you one of those people that work off your calendar or something like that?
Over the last 3 months since I moved to London, I have to say I've been terribly organised and being very reactive rather than proactive. So I'm not sure I can preach that much given the state I'm in.
Neither can I. I'm just trying to get some advice.
Definitely through university, I had to be very methodical about things because I just need to fit everything in. I know that I get my best work done in the morning. So I will take hours off the end of my day to put them on the beginning. When I was doing my undergraduate degree, because I left my dissertation till quite late, I knew I needed to get stuff done. I would wake up at 5 o'clock. And I would wake up, go to the gym, and be getting like solid work done at like 6:30 before anyone had even woken up, and that's because that was the time that I got the best work done. I think exercise is really important to have that sort of continuous something to pin your day around, at least.
Yeah,
it's one of those things where there could be so much going on around you, but as long as you know that you've got that 1 hour in the day, half an hour, you can just sort of like pin it around that. But apart from that, I don't really use calendars. I use like timetables a lot more. When I've been at the sort of like higher end of trying to fit things in, I will have an alarm going off every hour or 2 hours to tell me what to do, so I don't have to think about it at all.
Good shout.
Just planning the week in advance is so much better than like having to plan each day. There's a principle of like batch working or something like that, where you will do a certain task for a longer period of time rather than doing it split up throughout each day, which works well. Apart from that, I think it all comes down to personality. I would rather work solidly for 4 hours and work in quite an extreme way than what a lot of other people like to do, which is work for a longer period of time, but like having regular breaks and keeping quite relaxed about it. So it really comes down to personality.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell you what, I've always had a very unorganized way of doing things. I now lean on my calendar to block out time for tasks and things, especially because that helps me keep an eagle eye on, obviously, like how long I think a certain task takes, and just from an operational point of view. But yeah, I remember I used to go down the rabbit hole watching those productivity YouTubers. So like the things, Ali Abdul is one, Thomas Frank, that Casey Neistat, like they all kind of fall into that realm, and you can actually become unproductive by studying productivity, which I found quite ironic, because you'll just binge it and you're like, I feel like I'm doing so much, and then after you've consumed it all, you're like, I call it a day. I've done a lot. So like you can fall down that. I mean, like, again, it's just trial and error thing, isn't it? Like I love challenging these preconceived notions, especially because you've been there, you've been that morning person. I've tried to convert myself into a morning person for God knows how long, and it just hasn't happened in any way, shape or form. But that's because I work until sometimes the early hours of the morning, and I'm like, well, if I went to bed on bloody time, I might be able to do it. You just have to go through.
I think if I had to interject one more point, sleep is like so essential. I mean, if you're going to bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, then I don't know how you're alive. I could not hack that at all. But yeah, there's a lot of what I term hustle culture, which I'm not like saying is necessarily a bad thing, but there are definitely bad elements
definitely
to
can
it.
Be, yeah.
Which sounds like something that you sort of experience, because if you're struggling to sort of like get up early in the morning, I think there are biological tendencies for waking up earlier or not, but like, mate, you're starting your own business, you've got a lot of work to do, and sometimes you need to have that hustle culture, don't you?
Yeah. Unexpected fires, metaphorical ones, happen in my realm too often, so that's what makes you fall over the schedule. So when you have a schedule that can just flux at any point, it then becomes really hard to institute the week planning. You can have your baseline elements, especially if you've got deadlines and things, but I think that's what I find the toughest, because it's never staying up until 2 a.m. for fun reasons. It's that I'm still working on this pitch, or I'm still writing up this massive email or something like that. So but I think that just then tells you that you probably need more help around you, and investing in people as early as humanly possible, it's from a business point, is the plan in general. But I could talk about productivity a lot, because like you said, the hustle porn stars, as I like to call them, they can make things awfully toxic, and there's always a course waiting for you right behind the corner. Just like, oh, can't wait for this. I wonder how much crypto I'm going to make off of this. So yeah, that's pretty wild. What are your thoughts on crypto right now? Because that market is awfully strange, and I think it has massive potential as a final form, as a decentralized financial thing, to really change the way we separate ourselves and not be reliant on governments or big companies. But at the same time, what a minefield! Like, nothing's safe. You'll get some pump and dump schemes everywhere. And what are your thoughts on
it? Regulation is definitely one of the topics at the moment to focus on, especially in the US, where typically most people favour towards the idea of a free market rather than lots of regulation. But crypto being what it is, a lot of negative outcomes can happen if you don't sort of monitor it well. I want to put this out there, I'm no crypto expert, and
neither am I. I just see the memes.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the problems in cryptocurrency, is that unless you are one of like the top 1,000 in cryptocurrency and know exactly what you're doing, you don't know anything about cryptocurrency at all. There's such a knowledge divide between the people who know what they're doing and the people that don't, that's where this kind of negative view of cryptocurrency comes from. Personally, I'm more fascinated by blockchain and the technology behind cryptocurrency.
Yes, because that has the infinite potential here.
I think Ethereum is one of the interesting companies. I think obviously Bitcoin is interesting because they were the pioneers of cryptocurrency, but Ethereum are bringing in technology around sort of signing documents and things like that, where it's that blockchain technology but put into a broader aspect of things. And that what comes straight to mind, because I studied it quite extensively at university, if you can follow like the base product all the way to something that you're consuming through blockchain, where 100% that is what's happened to it, imagine how that's going to change the world in terms of labor and different economies expanding at different rates. I mean, part of the reason that China's economy boomed so much was because of cheap labor. And if the products that we use in a day-to-day environment had those sort of negative connotations attached to them without a question of a doubt, would people still consume in the same way that they do at the moment? I mean, it's just the potential for a lot of change is there, but whether you can navigate the regulation and things like that is a different question. but definitely something to keep an eye on anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Like as I said, it's a minefield, and I'm getting everything secondhand based off of the market's reaction and just social's reaction. And I love that a lot of this can actually be controlled via social media. Obviously, we all sat there and watched, and probably some of us laughed at the Wall Street bets thing with GameStop. I found that so funny, just because we've got half the people sticking it to the man, and then the other half going, "Oh no, the billionaires lost money." Woo! But you know, that's just who knows where it's going to go. But like I've always imagined a world where we operate on this Star Wars credit system, where it's like and then if we just off this universal currency you can pay anywhere. But then also just like, how is that going to affect the world? Because there's some areas of the world that are still mostly cash oriented, and then like in the States, I didn't realize.
I wouldn't have a job right now if there wasn't different currencies. So
yeah, like I just didn't realize that the States contactless payments are nowhere near as common as they are over here. And I'm like, how could I live without contactless? So remember my PIN, savagery.
The extra time taken per payment, ridiculous.
Trust me. And again, it all depends on different regions' reactions to that, and how do they actually respond to, I can just tap, or do I trust that I can have that ability? It's wild, because I remember when I first heard about contactless, and I was like, surely someone can just steal your card and tap away. And then now I just even think about it, I'm like, this seems legit. Happily pay that, especially because your limit is higher on mobile payments, isn't it? I think it goes up to like hundreds, whereas on card it's like £45 limit.
Yeah, I think they extended the limit because of coronavirus. Obviously, they wanted that contactless payment. I don't know about you, but whenever I see someone make a contactless payment, they're always touching the card against the machine anyway. So
that's not contactless anymore. You failed. Go back to the front of the line and pay again. It's so cool to see how that evolves. I wonder if we'll have NFC chips in our wrist one day that we can just wave over things, and no one will be working in shops, and it goes the roof of the Amazon store. I've always wanted to go in that. I haven't done it yet.
Yeah, I think there was one in London, introduced London a while ago.
It was a pop-up store, I think.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
Maybe.
But it's definitely interesting. And I think Elon Musk is generating those sort of implants into your head as well. So
yeah, and everyone's decided to go to space. Even Mr. Bezos. It's like, okay, this is a thing now.
Yeah.
It's starting to worry me. Why are all billionaires going to space? Are we missing something? Do they know something we don't know?
We've got these big screens at work with Bloomberg TV on them all the time, and it's literally just been Jeff Bezos and space expeditions like 24/7.
I love the little beef him and Richard Branson had. Like, he was just saying, "Oh, my rocket actually went to space." Yeah, and his rocket definitely looked like a penis. Someone had to say it. He went to space in a dick-shaped rocket and still tried to flex on everyone. It was a skit off of Austin Powers.
Yeah, a literal dick swinging competition.
I suppose when you've got that much money, what else is there to do? Just, cause ruckus.
Yeah, I think what Jeff Bezos was saying is that he wants to protect the world by putting all industry in space. So we'll see where that goes.
Or he could just pay his employees correctly. That might help.
Yeah, and I think one of the things he said was, thank you to all the Amazon workers and Amazon customers, because you paid for all of this. You paid for my trip to space. Cheers.
At least he's honest. I don't know. When it comes time to eat the rich, I'll get my knife and fork out. I'll be all right. But God, I'm not sure how long we've been talking. I think we've been talking about 50 minutes. I mean, that was really, really fun. Excellent.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, great to have a catch up and a good conversation.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for your time on the show. Is there anything you want to promote or plug right now? Just to give you a little platform to talk about anything. Obviously, subscribe to the Business Culture channel. I'm sure there'll be videos on there at some point in the future. Just got to get that, that schedule back going.
Definitely focusing on getting more content out there. As I said, at the moment it's just trying to get on top of things, and you don't want to be putting out content when it feels like a chore. You want to be doing it because you enjoy doing it, and that's. I think that really comes across in content as well.
It does.
in terms of plugs, I'm not sure. I mean, if anyone has any foreign currency to exchange, then give me a shout. But
Jake's your man. Amazing. Thank you for your time, my man. It's been much appreciated. And as always, no problem. And if anyone needs anything from me, all of the information will be in the description. Shogun Digital website, my LinkedIn, or anything else. If you've been interested in anything social media related, feel free to book a session with me. But that is completely up to you. And we shall sign off. So thank everyone for your time, and we'll catch you on the flip side.